Hey, I'm NichBoy and welcome to Pocket, and today I'm going to be talking to Aussie Indie Dev Dane Krams about his game Anna's Quest and what it's like to make a game entirely by yourself and then suddenly just have 30 German people work on it.
Don't you see the devil near? The devil with his eyes that fright. My girl.
Anna's Quest began as a one-man project until renowned German publisher Daedalic caught wind of something special and helped bring it out of Dane's Brisbane bedroom and deliver it to the world. All right, Dane, well, thank you very much for joining us. I guess I'm going to start with, you're a bit of a one-man band. Like, you kind of did this game by yourself. Where do you start with something like that? Do you sort of come up with the animation and then you build a game around it? Are you doing code bare bones and then putting pretty pictures on top of it afterwards, or?
Yeah, well, I mean, the game, it started a long time ago, so that's kind of stretching back a little bit, but when I did start, it was definitely the art, because that was my strong point. I was always a drawer, I wasn't really a game designer. I didn't actually have any programming going into this. So
Really?
yeah, literally it was just playing to my strengths, which was drawing, and then trying to figure out how to make that work.
And so did you teach yourself how to make a game? Because you were like, I've got too many pictures to actually just make a book?
Yeah, well, I kind of wanted to make a game for a while. It was going to be a book, and then it did become a game, but yeah, I essentially taught myself. I mean, the communities are so big and strong now, and there's so many like YouTube tutorials, and people are so eager to help too that yeah, it really didn't take long to get kind of my head around the basics of AGS is what I started with, Adventure Game Studio. When we went to Daedalic, they use their own in-house engine, so it was basically like getting it started in AGS, and then yeah, Daedalic gave it a whole new life with their engine.
And so what was it about a video game that, like, what drew you to games in the first place?
Well, I've always been a gamer. I grew up on King's Quest, Police Quest, Monkey Island, all of them. I did film because I loved storytelling. I mean, that's why I love the adventure game genre so much, because it's so driven by storytelling. As I said, I always played games, so it was kind of a pretty natural progression to go back to games. It kind of was like what I felt comfortable with. It's always been something that I've been doing with my life.
And so with the game, like, it's got pretty old school point and click origins to it. Like, it's very sort of Monkey Island style, mix match different things, put it together, solving the puzzles. Where did you draw your inspirations from?
Hugely from Monkey Island. Cursed Monkey Island is probably one of my favorite games ever made. So as soon as I started making a game, it was pretty much like what I was aiming towards was Curse. At that point when I was starting, that's when Whispered World came out. That was kind of like when Daedalic was making their stamp on the world a little bit. They'd already done Edna and Harvey, but you know, Whispered World was kind of really impressing everyone, and that kind of captured my imagination a bit, because it was the first time 2D adventure games were being done on such a big scale again since something like Curse, so that was another huge inspiration.
And what parts of Anna's Quest do you feel like came from those old point and click games? Like, what were the big mechanics and stuff that inspired you there?
Humor, first of all.
Yeah, because those games are hilarious. And the thing about your game, it's surprisingly dark. Like, it's really messed up when you think about it.
Yeah, well, good. It's hard not to make European fairy tales messed up. When you're basing a game off of that, it's kind of inevitable.
Yeah, on the scale of like being eaten by a witch and being like hunted by a wolf and pretty much every fairy tale where your parents don't love you, I feel like yours is actually like a really happy tale about a girl that like has a teddy bear. At least she has something to love.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's just everyone around her is completely depressed.
Yeah.
And she has to kind of bring a little bit of happiness in her youthful innocence.
So with Daedalic, how far into the process of making the game were you before they came along?
Maybe about a quarter, but it was actually 4x3. There was all sorts of restrictions I had to place on myself because it was a master's project essentially, and the master's was finished. So I was just putting it out into the world as a kind of part one of a series, and hoping it would catch on. So that's when Daedalic caught onto it and emailed me, and we had to go back and really redo a lot of it already. We had to make it all 16:9 widescreen HD. So even though technically a quarter was done, we still had a lot of work to cover.
And how did they find out about the game in the first place? Did they just sort of stumble across it online one day, or?
I had posted in a Adventure Gamers forum, and I just was all excited about my game. I hadn't put it out yet, and I was like, oh, here's the first screenshot, and this character's Anna, and what do you guys think? And it wasn't that long after that I started getting some emails from them saying, hey, we've seen you putting stuff up about this game. What are your plans? And we kind of went from there.
It's just ruthless German efficiency.
Yeah, exactly.
And so what part of the process did they look after that you couldn't do yourself?
Well, like I said, my strength wasn't in programming. They completely took over programming, so that was a blessing. And I mean, they're Daedalic. They're like the godfathers of adventure games.
Yeah.
So they only need to say, we're making a game, and they've got a whole horde of adventure game fans
just ready to buy it, totally.
Yeah.
And one of my questions was going to be, was it weird sort of handing your baby over, going, okay, this was mine and now it's yours? But from the sounds of it, you were like, I can't code, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm totally lost, someone help. So I was like, this is freaking great.
It wasn't quite so bad, but they definitely had a lot more expertise anyway. But it never felt like I was handing over a baby. I was worried about that. I didn't know what to expect when I was first going to them, but straight away from the beginning, they put 100% of their faith in me. I sent a design document through to show the rest of the game, and they liked what they saw, and they just said, great, keep making it. We'll give you some programmers and some extra animators to keep going, and we just, toil away. And as we got close to the end, they threw a bucket load more people, and we had a whole room full of animators and programmers. Yeah,
awesome. And so what's next for you then? Are you staying here, or are you some big shot in Germany now?
I'm definitely staying here. I am already starting on an idea, actually. Just before you called, I was researching a whole heap of stuff for the next one.
No, you weren't. You were eating Milky Way cookies and cream stuff when we called.
That's part of my research. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying here.
And with your new game, have you come up with an art style first, and then you're building a game around it again? Or now that you've got your head in the game a bit more, like, are you thinking more mechanics-wise from the get-go?
Both, really. I mean, there was a massive amount I learned from this one, so I definitely feel more grounded going into a new game now. I know my limitations, and I know what I can and can't push, so it definitely gives me a good idea about how to be a little bit more ambitious next time. I think I've got a little bit more experimental and grand ideas, which I'm kind of excited about digging into. But yeah, art style is another one. You have to take your time to make sure you got the right mood for it and stuff like that. I'm feeling pretty good.
Awesome, man. And look, I have one more question. It's not a criticism. It's a question. Why are all the voices American? Because you're Australian and they're German. Yeah. And then when it started, I was like, oh, everyone's got an American accent. Because I was going, oh, you never hear Australian voices in the game, so I was looking forward to that. And then boom, it was like California girl.
It was
the Germans, wasn't it?
I had every intention, actually, when I started making the game, of having an all-Australian cast, and especially because I worked in film, I had a lot of actors and actresses that I knew.
Yep.
So it was, I was all excited about it. I was like, yeah, it's gonna be, everyone's gonna hear it and they're gonna know it's Australian. And then you get an Australian voice in a game.
Oh, it's terrible.
Sounds so alien and bizarre, and it doesn't belong there.
We're disgusting.
I'm sorry, Australia. I couldn't do it. I went the cheap way out to Americans.
Well, I'm going to leave it there, Dane traitor. But thank you very much for chatting with me about the game, and good luck with it and the next weird cookies and cream thing you're working on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me.
Brilliant. Thanks, man.